Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, we're going to kind of have just a back and forth conversation here. And if you didn't check out the previous video that I've made a video about how this NHL stoppage or how the season just getting canceled due to coronavirus or COVID-19 affects each individual teams from a hockey standpoint. But in today's video, I want to talk about how it affects the Toronto Maple Leafs because it does affect the Toronto Maple Leafs in some way. I know it's a very Leaf fan of me to just kind of relate this back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but there is a conversation to be had here. And I think it starts with the fact that the Toronto Maple Leafs were kind of breaking out of what's been going on over the last 18 months with them. It just seems to be one bad thing after another. And being a fan and watching the team and following them closely has not been fun. It has not been fun ever since they lost to the Bruins in the 17-18 season. It has not been fun following this team. And I'm not going to run down the list because you guys are very aware of the things that I'm talking about that have happened in that time period. And it seems like they were kind of starting to break out of it, right? They're in a playoff spot right now. They got Sheldon Keefe in there. You know, the team was kind of being held accountable for things by Kyle Dubas not making any trades at the trade deadline. And I mean, if we're looking back at that now in hindsight, I mean, aren't you kind of glad that he didn't give up so many assets? Because there might not be a playoffs to be had. For the longest time, it seemed like this season especially that the Maple Leafs had like a hurricane just sitting over top of them, and it just kept raining. And no, I'm not talking about them losing to David Ayres and the Carolina Hurricanes, although the analogy does fit. And the only way to break free of what was holding them back, that kind of storm that was kind of sitting over top of them, was to continue to play games and to have positive results in those games. And with the NHL season just coming to a stop, this is the taste that Leaf fans are going to have in their mouth for another 6+ months, maybe. And as a fan of the team, but also a journalism student who tries to look at things objectively, I can only have the conversation of whether it was a bad idea to sign John Tavares so many times. I can only have the conversation about trading Mitch Marner and William Nylander or Austin Matthews so many times. I can only have the conversation should we fire Kyle Dubas so many times, right? This is the bitter taste that we've been left with in our mouths. And I can point to this reason to be optimistic, or I can list these defensemen that they can go out and acquire to make the team better. By the way, check out the playlist that I made on the channel talking about different defense options that the Maple Leafs have this year in both a flat cap or possibly a reduced cap. We could talk about a million different reasons why you should be positive about this team, but for some people, myself included, you're not going to get us to be positive about this team until we see them win in the regular season, but preferably in the first round of the playoffs and then moving on from there. I said in the video that I did after the trade deadline had passed and Kyle Dubas did nothing that we needed answers and that we were going to get them this season, whether the team made the playoffs or didn't make the playoffs or got bounced in the first round. That would have given us the answers that we needed on how to proceed with this offseason, and we're just not going to get any of those answers now. And that means that big decisions that are going to need to be made this offseason are going to need to be made off the precedents that we have, right? The information that we have in front of us. And the information that we have in front of us is kind of nothing, right? It doesn't give us the question of whether Kyle Dubas deserves to be fired or not. It doesn't answer the question of whether we should trade one of the core four or not. It doesn't give us the answers for anything. So I don't really know how we're going to go about this offseason. And I think for people that wanted to see a big shakeup this offseason with the Toronto Maple Leafs, whether that's trading one of the core four players or firing Kyle Dubas, I think that you're going to be severely disappointed. Whether those were or are the right moves to make, I don't think that there's enough information in front of us for anyone in the Maple Leafs organization to responsibly make that decision. I think that Kyle Dubas and Brendan Shanahan and Brandon Pridden go into this offseason and they make marginal upgrades on what we have in front of us. I think that they do come away with a couple of European free agents. I do think that they sign a couple of defensemen in free agency that are improvements that are maybe a little bit underrated, maybe like a Dylan DeMello or a Justin Braun. Maybe they do make a trade for someone like Connor Murphy. Maybe they do go out and acquire someone else in a trade that's kind of underrated that we're not talking about right now. But for those of you that wanted one of the core four players traded, or maybe acquiring a Josh Manson or a Damon Severson or signing an Alex Pietrangelo, or even Kyle Dubas fired, you're going to be severely disappointed with what the Maple Leafs come back in October, if it even is October at this point. And from just the sole hockey standpoint, it's another year of the core wasted. right? Because even if the Maple Leafs, they were in that final Atlantic Division playoff spot, even if they do squeak into it, if there were no stoppage in the NHL season, anything can happen in the playoffs, right? It's a 7-game series. Anything can happen. Frederik Andersen could all of a sudden turn into a brick wall. Austin Matthews could catch fire and score 7 goals in 7 games. You don't know. And now we're not going to get that opportunity, and this is going to be the sour taste left in our mouth until the NHL does come back. But that obviously isn't the be-all, end-all of the situation that we're in right now, right? We got much bigger problems to worry about than just hockey. But let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on what I said in this video down in the comment section below, and make sure to leave me a like on this video if you did like it, and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, let's just continue to ride this out, practice safe measures, and hopefully you guys are all doing well out there.